I think one of the real main changes that's taking place in work in general is that work is being seen more as a consumer experience now. So when people are looking around for jobs, not only are they looking at the role itself, but they're also really interested in the kind of environment that they're going to be working in. The way that's actually playing out in terms of the work environments is that there's actually a real push now for curated kind of workplaces, where there's a really proactive approach taken to actually putting the workplace together. And one of the aspects that's really coming out in that is the whole well building standard practices. So buildings are actually now able to be designed and curated in a way that actually promotes good health amongst the people that are actually working in the building. There's a whole range of things that can go into that in terms of the light, the air, the water quality, but also the fitness, the nourishment, comfort factors, and also the peace of mind. Some of the artworks and also some of the information that's provided to people so that they can learn more about how to be more healthy in the workplace. There's also a real push for work-friendly cafes, places people really like to meet in cafes where there's a bit of a buzz and that they can have a meeting with a bit of action around. And also there's a push for a kind of 5-star level of service. There's also a lot of work being done around serendipity, trying to get people to bump into each other as they're walking around. So it's a real science that is really playing out in terms of workplace professionals. There's also a lot of work being done around organisational engagement and really taking a scientific look at the way that teams are interacting with other teams and trying to kind of map that out and to kind of support that without being overly intrusive. I guess one of the biggest things that's come out of our research in terms of the workplace of the future is the idea that there's going to be a lot more offices in the workplaces of the future. As soon as we say that, people are like, oh, I knew that this was a bad idea to get rid of all of the offices. And to some extent it really was, but it's not the way that people really think about it though, in terms of going back to the way that things used to be. There will be a lot more offices in the workplaces of the future, but it won't be like the past where people had a private office and they just set up and had their own private space. It's about providing these offices that everyone can share so that there's times when it's appropriate to sit together and collaborate in open spaces, but it's really, really important to have these quiet spaces where people can get away and focus, because nobody's in any kind of a mood to collaborate if they can't find the quiet space to really focus and get their work done when they need to. So that's a big change for the future. The future of activity-based working itself is actually quite interesting. It's something that I've been kind of predicting for a while, is that I think the term activity-based working will actually go away, mostly because the term activity-based working is being wrongly associated with a kind of a really crude hot desking in some places. The vision for activity-based working is to create the kind of perfect work environment that has different facilities to suit different kinds of work activities. Unfortunately, a lot of companies have taken advantage of activity-based working and really used it as an opportunity to impose some really kind of crude hot desking, whereby they say, oh, it's activity-based working, we're all going to share the spaces, but it's actually not. It's just about cramping people into bench-style desking really close together with no quiet spaces. There's a groundswell of negative feedback that's coming as a result of that, and the term activity-based working is kind of wrongly being associated with these kind of crude hot desking arrangements. The agile style of activity-based working, where people move around empowered by technology, that's not going anywhere. Technology is getting better and better. People are moving around more and more and will continue to do that. What will happen in future is that the competition for really great talent will ensure that the really bad hot desking workplaces will suffer the consequences, and companies will again start to invest in the true style of activity-based working in providing all of the really great facilities for people to move around. But it won't be known as activity-based working anymore. It'll just become the norm. It'll just be called working and just be like expected. There's a really big opportunity for landlords and also a challenge. Mostly landlords are providing hardware, i.e. the buildings. But moving forward into the future, landlords really need to be providing the hardware and also the software as well. And by the software, we actually mean the services. So it's really important that they are able to develop that service culture internally, or to partner up with other organisations that are really good in providing those services. Another thing that's coming through loud and clear from tenants is that they really hoping that landlords can support them a lot more in terms of providing more flexibility. Work is going more and more towards projects. Projects kind of spring up out of nowhere, an opportunity at a moment in time, and the company at that time is ready to invest money in it and to bring all the resources together, but they just need space. So they're really looking for opportunities where the landlord can help them to obviously have a base level of floor space that's their own, but whether or not there's some ways that they can also provide ready access to breakout spaces for projects. So in the Pacific region, there's a real push towards co-working spaces, which are workspaces that are available for members to buy a membership and to come and work in there with people from all different organisations. But there's a real kind of an opportunity now for these co-working spaces to be introduced as part of the offering in a building, and so that the tenants in that building would be able to get access to that space for projects at short notice and have their people working side by side with other companies. I guess the key aspect of that is that the landlords still need to be able to get their return on the building, and the tenants are obviously willing to pay for the space when they've got these projects on. It's not hard to justify the business case to pay for these spaces while they've got this, fleeting opportunity. CBRE is actually doing a lot of work on helping to develop some of these new tenant models. We're doing some research at the moment to work out what the actual financials might look like around some of these models, and to provide the win-win for the landlord and for the tenant.